while they're getting your thoughts together. Different person wrote in. I have a question for the host, Gus, that I would like him to address on the program if it's possible. My questions are, now that you've come to the realization OJ is really not guilty of murdering Nicole and Ron, do you also find the whole thing to be depressing? Between the case most likely never being solved, the poor treatment of the jurors, the whitewashing of Mark Fuhrman and what he was capable of, the mainstream media lies and misrepresentations about the trial, the utter destruction and humiliation of OJ's life, the fact that 99% of the public believes he's guilty and will never have their minds changed, all that Sidney and Justin Simpson must go through, etc. I would say, it's so much like to process, like, it is very depressing. It absolutely, and I think I had asked before, once I, started to realize, like, wow, I don't think OJ Simpson did this. I think he is innocent. Like, not just the reasonable, like, no, I don't even think it's possible that he, like, the portion that I read from Marcia Clark's book, how would it be possible for one person to kill two people nearly simultaneously with just a knife? How would you do that? And then one of them is 20 years younger than you. And it's not like a you're 25 and a 5-year-old type thing. Like, you're almost 50. And this person is 20 years younger than you and fit. How would you do that? Once I started coming to that realization, like, man, this does not make sense at all. Like, I think they got me. I think I've been tricked all these years. It was stunning. And then, like, wow, I said that, like, is that the world that we live in? Like, OJ Simpson has been unjustly persecuted for 25 years? Is that the world that we live in? Whew. That is very depressing. And then all the rest, we had talked before, Geronimo Pratt. There are lots of cases, unfortunately, where white people were more interested in practicing racism than prosecuting a crime, sometimes a murder, correctly. We would rather practice racism and blame this on a black person, even when we know this black person did not commit this crime. Geronimo Pratt. We know they didn't commit this crime. We got evidence that they did not commit this crime, that they could not have committed this crime. We are more interested in practicing racism than even prosecuting the guilty. It's tons of components. The lies. I watched the ESPN documentary. I have not seen the last segment, but I've seen the first 4. It is disgusting. As he said, the treatment of the jurors and black people in general, the flagrant dishonesty. Jeffrey Toobin is in the ESPN documentary, so I mean, that's all you need to know. Flagrant dishonesty in these projects, and these are award-winning films. They talked about the FX series, and the person who wrote in said she couldn't even watch more than 10 minutes of it. The depiction of Christopher Darden, where they don't make any mention, they do a lot. In the FX series, they spend a lot of time. Poor Marcia Clark, she had it so bad. Victim, sexist, toxic males making all these lewd comments about her, and Johnny Cochran, penalizing her for being a working mom. They play that so hard. No sympathy at all. Christopher Darden, victim of racism, his family, his brother, nothing. He's just pouting and emotional and incompetent. So it's very depressing, but it's also, you can learn a lot, unfortunately, about the system of white supremacy. That has been one thing. Wow, you can learn so much about the system of white supremacy, racism. In fact, this is a great illustration. We talk about non-white people being confused about racism, white supremacy. Like, even this case right here, like, I don't think most people I don't think most non-white people that I bump into, they are not like quasi-experts on the OJ Simpson trial as it relates to racism, white supremacy. Like that right there shows you the power of racist white supremacists that, and some of it, Jeffrey Toobin, you put out books, you put out so-called documentaries, the FX series is better than the documentary. The FX series is more truthful in many ways than the so-called documentary. Like that's how ridiculous and the intensity of the white supremacy propaganda around all this. But you can really learn a lot about how white people practice racism, how they practice deception with this. In some instances, it's just you keep saying the same lie. Jill Shively, they just keep wheeling her out. She was mentioned in Mark Furman's book. Oh yeah, OJ Simpson almost ran me off the road, right after he killed those. I was terrified. Really? Jill Shively? And you just keep, even after she gets discredited, you just keep wheeling her out. 2016, 2020, we just wheel her out again. If folks have commentary that they want to make sure they get in, make sure you don't wait till the very, very end, because we're almost done. Any other folks' thoughts, observations that they wanted to share? Listener that wrote in, he had a second question. He said, do you think the truth about this case trial will ever be revealed in our lifetime? If you mean like who actually committed the crime, I seriously doubt it. I mean, it's been 25 years at this point. I don't know. I don't even know what that would mean at this point. I mean, even if, unless they had like video, I would think like irrefutable proof. If somebody wanted, even Mr. Simpson, if somebody wanted to step forward and confess, the amount of irrefutable proof that would be needed, like, yes, I committed these crimes, or we committed these crimes, this is how we did it, this is the time, the why, all the, the details and blah, blah, blah. We got photographs of us doing it, video, everything that you need. We did it. No, I seriously doubt that that's going to happen. The perpetrators could be deceased at this point. I think F. Lee Bailey and some others, one of the theories is that the perpetrators, they were attempting to get Faye Resnick. They made an error. Once this was found out, they were killed. So in that instance, wouldn't be possible. I can't see somebody stepping forward to make a truthful confession at this point. So if that's what we mean, knowing the truth about it, seriously doubt it. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be lots more speculation and theories and things of that nature. I cannot imagine after 25 years anything. It would be great to get like some details, like more information about Mr. Goldman, Ronald Goldman, more information about him, about this case. That might be helpful, just to be able to get more data, but very doubtful that there'll be any sort of satisfactory closure. And I think this is one, you have a lot of white people. It's just OJ Simpson did this. There is no, that's the closure. OJ Simpson did it, and we'll just wait for him to die so we can, mock his grave and shoot at his tombstone and all the rest of it, and no count murder, and that's that. They have convinced with the ESPN documentary and books like what Toobin wrote and the like, it's very easy to manipulate. I can't stress that enough with this case. White people's ability to manipulate and confuse non-white people about events and things that took place, it is extraordinary. I think even Thomas in New York said that he knew people. I'm not one of those folks, but he knew people who at least they were diligent at one point. They did investigate this at some point and said, man, at minimum, this evidence is really suspicious. This is looking like, man, I have got enough reason to have reasonable doubt, if not thinking out and out, nah, he didn't do this, and you all are, trying to set up a black person here. That after time, you forget, you don't have that information, and they put out enough of those films and books like this and documentaries in quotes, and wow, I guess OJ did kill those people after. It is amazing. You can learn so much about the system of white supremacy racism just evaluating this case. Even you bring in Christopher Darden. You bring him in, and then you're going to try and set him up, give him all the bad witnesses and what have you. And then you still find a way to blame it. Oh, yeah, it's incompetent, no count Christopher Darden, who wasn't even a part of this case when it started. Remember, they had him with AC? Remember that? That was the other point I was going to bring up, too, with Rosa Lopez. Remember, they said Judge Ito thought about putting her in jail over the weekend to make sure that she didn't try to flee to El Salvador, to make sure that they got her testimony that Monday morning. Remember with Cato, back with the preliminary hearing, and he kept saying, I plead the fifth. I'm not going to talk. And he was going to talk to his attorney, and it was the same thing. Is he going to flee? We don't know. He's not cooperating. And it just said, oh, no. He's a great old boy. He's great. He wouldn't do anything. Come on. You'll be here, Mike. Remember that? There was no thought of putting old Cato in. Remember, because we said, man, if this had been AC, I think AC might have been in jail. We could have seen Rosa Lopez almost could have been in jail. She didn't commit a crime. She didn't do anything. I thought there was some suspicion with Cato, like, hey, at minimum, it seemed like he might have been under the influence, like some narcotics, something. Rosa Lopez did nothing criminally wrong, and it was, we might need to lock her up for a few days, make sure we get her testimony. Oh, and make sure I answer. Red in Ohio, she asked about perjury. I am not an expert in jurisprudence. My understanding of perjury as it relates to criminal trials, if you lie on the witness stand under oath, that may not necessarily be grounds for perjury. For it to be considered for perjury, it has to be relevant to the charges of the case. So, just for example, if they were talking about food, Tubin was saying that they were talking about tamales, right? She says she loved tamales. Somehow they found out she's allergic to tamales. She's never had a tamale in her life. Okay, so if she lied about that, that's not really relevant to whether or not OJ Simpson killed these people. So that probably would not be something that they would consider for perjury. I think whether or not she lied about the morning that she purchased her ticket, that's not really relevant to whether or not OJ Simpson killed these people. Now, Mark Furman lying on the stand about, have you ever said nigger? Some people say that's not really relevant to whether or not OJ Simpson killed these people. Others take the opinion, myself would be in that group, if that might be a reason, part of the justification for fabrication of evidence, that is relevant to this case. So that would be how you weigh it. Many people lied on the stand, or many people, it would seem, may have deliberately lied during this trial under oath, including prosecutors. A number of prosecutors, as you heard, were even accused of not being truthful in the trial. I'm not even sure in terms of prosecutors how that work, if they can be prosecuted for all that. But I know at least for witnesses, it would have to be relevant to the charges of the case. And even for perjury, there are degrees, as I understand it, and that is directly related to how closely is this your lie? How closely related is it to the matter at hand? And the more closely related, the harsher the penalties. That's my understanding. Again, I'm not an expert in jurisprudence. That's it. Folks satisfied? Did we miss anybody? Grand. We'll assume that we nabbed everybody. Didn't omit any questions. Let's see. Did I miss the other person who wrote in? Our other person that wrote in, Marcia Clark, was referring to the folklore about the inferences to be drawn from the dimensions of a man's hands. Actual repartee about the size of F. Lee Bailey's penis, tacky, trashy, or terroristic. Welsing moment for sure, in the midst. And I mean, so much of this, I said, gets to the genital level and sexual intercourse, and particularly, between a white person and non-white person, black male, white woman, lots of that. But when we resume next Thursday, it will be F. Lee Bailey. The cross-examination continues of Mark Furman. Fast. You can go back, anybody listening, if you did not hear, we had F. Lee Bailey on the program just about 30 days ago. He talked about the cross-examination and more details on the trial. Fascinating. Go back, check that out. And Patrick J. McKenna, lots of the folks that are very mentioned in the exact text. Hopefully we'll have more of the folks who've written about and studied on this case. We can get more of them to come and be guests on the program so we can get more details. But again, excellent case to study. There are so many books that you can read. You can have your little OJ Simpson library, and again, you can talk to your offspring, family members, friends. This can be a great way to talk about dimensions of white supremacy, racism. You all can watch some of the documentaries or the FX series, or you can talk about these books. There's so many different ways. If they already saw it, you can talk about it and watch and talk. You can talk over it if you've already seen it. You can watch and talk. And did you watch the trial? Have you read any of these books? Have you looked at the transcript? You can watch the actual trial. I can't emphasize that enough. There is no reason for lies to be sustained and perpetuated when a lot of this stuff can be confirmed or refuted immediately. We can go to YouTube in 5 minutes and just what day, what testimony, what witness do we need to find? We can watch this immediately and squash all of that. There's no reason for this to be rife with rumors and innuendo and lies about what happened. The transcript is available, all of it. The trial is available, all of it. Be a quasi-expert on the OJ Simpson case. It will come up so frequently in so many different ways. Again, it can be a great tool to explain what white supremacy racism is, how it works with other non-white people. The total whitewashing, as the person who wrote in talked about, the whitewashing of Mark Furman. That is how white supremacy racism worked. He was the only person, emphasize that, the only person who was convicted in connection with the OJ Simpson or the OJ Simpson criminal trial, 1995. Mark Furman. And he gets to hang out on television and talk about George Floyd and write best-selling books, and woe is me, I was a victim in all this, and am definitely not racist. The wisdom of psychopaths. We will end there. Much obliged for folks tuning in. Hope it was worthy of your Thursday evening.